Dr. Fauci is back with another prediction about when things might be back to normal. Take a look.
That if we can get through this winter and get really the majority, overwhelming majority of the 90 million people who have not been vaccinated, I hope we could start to get some good control in the spring of 2022. I didn't mean the fall. I misspoke. My bad.
Okay, so he had been asked about like his previous comment that the fall of 22 would be the time, and that was his bad. He just meant the spring, but that's still really bad, I feel like. Like we're launching towards 2 full years, Bridget. And I have a lot of little tidbits of news about how things are going and everything, but it's been a bit since we talked about this. And during the interim, we're launching into another wave, at least in certain parts of the country. So what do you think about what Dr. Fauci had to say there?
I mean, I respect the fact that he gives it to us straight, that he misspoke and it's looking more like spring 22. It's a lot to take in. I mean, this sounds so kind of quaint now, but I still remember back in the day when I was like, oh, this is gonna be 3 months tops, like that was the longest I could conceptualize, lockdowns and all of this. And spring 2022, I mean, that's a lot. That's not nothing.
Yeah. And like when, I think when we were early on, I originally thought it'd be like 2 weeks or whatever. And when we started to think about, oh my God, maybe this will last a really long time. That for me, at least, I think for a lot of people was pre-vaccine. And so it was, what can come to save us? But now it's like, no, we have everything that we need. We're very lucky as a country that we bought up like the whole world's supply of vaccines, refused to give it to other countries. And so they're here. And we just like can't convince people to actually take them. So I don't know, in some ways it's a little bit darker. Like we individually might be better protected, with vaccines and stuff like that. But as a country, we're just looking out there and seeing not just continued suffering and death, which is horrible, but what makes it worse is that it's even more needless than it was before. And then that continues to this day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's almost kind of, it's kind of a darker story when you start to pick it apart that we have what we need. Other countries would really, really benefit from having these vaccines. We just can't get people to take them. We can't get shots in arms. And so it is a little bit disappointing when you think about it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, I want to catch people up a little bit on some of what's going on with the pandemic. So let's see, we got fun stuff like Hawaii's lieutenant governor, who is an ER doctor, says that that they're getting calls. Josh Green is getting calls about ivermectin, even over in Hawaii. So that's fun. The sheep dewormer. Hawaii, by the way, is asking for tourists to stop coming because they don't want COVID imported, which is sort of understandable, I suppose. We had a little milestone hit in Florida. Florida is apparently now the first US state where the daily average deaths over 1 week from COVID are now higher than they were in all of the past waves. So over the past month or so, we've gone through cases going up, and that's scary, and then hospitalizations going up. But there was always that hope that the deaths would not do what they always do, follow 2 to 4 weeks later. At least in Florida, they are. They're now averaging more than 200 deaths a day. But never forget that Ron DeSantis won the pandemic. So that's fun. Let's see, do I have any good news? Well, 3 Houston area emergency rooms have closed due to the COVID surge. That's not good news. There's a little bit of good news, but again, it's sort of a regional thing. The cases in New York City are now decreasing. The percent positive is heading down. In California and in LA in particular, we're now seeing that as well. So there is a little bit of good news, Bridget, but again, it tends to be certain areas. Like if you're in Mississippi, if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, it is still very dark times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm grateful to have a little bit of good news where we can find it. But honestly, my heart really goes out to the people of Florida who their elected officials have just abandoned them. I read a poll that said that the majority of folks in Florida actually want mask mandates. They don't want to continue to politicizing COVID protocols. Probably because it's caused so much death and harm in their state. And it just seems like they have been abandoned by their leaders. And it's really, my heart goes out to them because it's really causing them such distress.
Yeah, exactly. Ugh. And again, we have all the tools that we need. We'll just see, will we do it? Oh, by the way, I want to give an update on this because I don't know, Bridget, have you seen the comments that have been now twice now? I believe it's the lieutenant governor of Texas is they've moved on from just the only reason we have COVID is because of undocumented immigrants to saying that Black Americans won't get vaccinated, so they're responsible. So I wanted to just give people accurate information. So overall, across all adults, 69% say they've gotten the vaccine, 13% saying they will not take the vaccine. Black Americans were the racial group most likely to say they've been vaccinated at 76%, Latinos at 71%, white people at 66%. So there's a 10-point gap between Black Americans and white Americans. I don't know if the lieutenant governor or any of the other senior political leadership of Texas is watching. Just wanted to make sure that they had some accurate facts there.
Yes, thank you so much for correcting the record. And I think it really speaks to how we've allowed our leaders to manipulate data and numbers, how they've allowed to kind of make Black and brown folks the face of vaccine hesitancy when that's just not the case, and how convenient it is for them to have this scapegoat, to get up on a podium and say like, oh, it's Black folks, it's brown folks, just completely flies in the face of the actual data. So thank you for correcting the record, and I hope that folks in that state are watching so they can actually get some accurate information.
Yeah, and look, anyone trying to pull that move obviously sucks. But I mean, I guess at least in theory, if you wanted everyone to get vaccinated, like I get the impulse to attack groups that won't vaccinate. Maybe I would say be accurate if you're gonna do it. But if you are like one of the leaders of a movement that is like apologizing for all the right wingers that don't want to get vaccinated, is grifting off of vaccine hesitancy, then no, you don't get to like point one figure while shielding all these other people that would prefer sheep dewormer. That doesn't make sense.
Absolutely, you don't get to blame Black and brown folks for not taking the vaccine one day and then the next day go on TV and downplay the effectiveness of vaccines. You cannot have it both ways, and that's what these people want.
Exactly. And look, overall, I would say we should try to be understanding. I go back and forth. I get frustrated. I'm a human. I've lost family to this. So I get frustrated, and sometimes maybe the ways I try to reach out aren't necessarily the most productive, but we should try to be understanding. And I want people to keep that in mind as we get into some of the videos I'm about to play for you, because it is going to be difficult to be understanding when you face some of the nonsense we're about to see.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.